Good morning and welcome to Creative Media. I'm AJRoss, president of AJRoss Creative Media. For more than 27 years, we've helped businesses both large and small grow their market share and brand awareness. In the coming weeks, I'll have a variety of guests giving their insights, discussing recent trends, and sharing personal stories about their marketing experience. We also are here to hear your point of view and answer your marketing questions, so call us at 845-651-1110. Again, 845-651-1110, or text us at 845-397-7743. In the coming weeks, my guest will be Kristen Jensen from Catholic Charities. She's the marketing director of Catholic Charities on September 5th. On September 12th, my guest will be Edison Guzman, president of A&E Advertising. And on September 19th, Charlie Graham, president of Volume 8 Advertising. So some really good guests, and there's a bunch of people that would be on weeks after that. And today, I'm very pleased to have on my show today Matt Ross. He's a Senior Vice President of Digital at AJRoss Creative Media. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So, Matt, one more thing before I do this. I'm going to have a quote of the week for marketing. So this is a quote from Joe Chernoff. He's a big marketing director at Insight.com in New York City. And his quote is, "Good marketing makes the company look smart. Great marketing makes the customer feel smart." So think about that. So Matt, what's up? What have you been doing these days? Tell us a little bit about your past and how you got involved in the web design, programming, whatever.
Well, I've been working for the company for about 18 years now. Basically started doing, scans in stock magazines and stuff like that just for placement. And as time went on, Carlos had been doing...
What company are we talking about?
AJRoss Creative Media.
Oh, that company. I know that company. Yeah.
Maybe you've been to AJRoss.com.
Yeah. Okay.
So Carlos had been doing a lot of the programming, and as he started to focus more on the graphic end of it, I started to take...
Who's Carlos?
Carlos Vega, our creative director.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe you know him.
I know him. Yeah, I know him.
Your guest from last week.
Yeah.
And those were the days where you had to do everything by hand. There were no website builders out there. And then Flash started to come in, so we got deep into Flash, and things have since progressed from there. So now we're primarily a WordPress-focused web presence.
So you said 18 years ago you were in high school at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And you were interning at AJRoss and,
learning everything on the job.
Yeah.
Did some schooling at New Paltz.
Yeah, you went to, now, question about that. I know you had a few years at New Paltz and you did very well. Mm-hmm. I've talked to people about this, about our interns coming in. We have an intern, Matt, who's studying, he's getting his master's in computer science. And I asked him yesterday, he'll be working with us in the future. Mm-hmm. He's really become quite the guy.
Yeah.
And I said, you have another year left to get your master's. You've been here a month and a half. How much have you learned from Matt, in the last month and a half compared to, 6 years of school or whatever? Mm-hmm. What do you say?
There's always more. You pick up more on the job. He's learned more in his internship than he did through college.
Yeah.
When you have a job, it forces you to get the work done to the requirements that are given to you. You have to hit the A. You have to get an A.
Yeah.
With all the work that you do.
Yeah.
And especially when the reputation of the company kind of rides on the work that you do, so you have to keep up a good portfolio.
But we've had some interns who were paying $60,000 a year who didn't get it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's all about if they have the heart in it. If the interns that didn't work out, I'm sure that they probably just didn't really have that core interest in doing this as a career, as like a part of their life. They maybe were trying to figure out what was working for them. Hey, either do I want to do, analytics versus graphic work, and it takes a little while to figure out what your focus is. When like I said, when I started working as an intern, I was doing more graphic work, but then it became clear over the years that, you know, my forte was coding and the internet.
But why I think you're so valuable, and I've said this before when Carlos was on, and I'll say this to you, that, you know, my background is in New York City, you know, being in the music business, a session player, and when we went in and we sat down, and, you know, however you got there, who you knew, what you did, when you got in there, if you didn't play well, you never went back. And it could have been, you know, my father producing it, and you would never play again in that setting, with that producer. So, you know, I said this to Carlos, you know, I'm blessed to have you and Carlos. I mean, I see, well, it takes a while before we finish program because you do everything by hand. Why don't you explain a little bit how you code?
Well, every site that we do is completely custom. You know, we look at the needs of the client. The designs are based around that. And basically, so we have these great designs that Carlos does, you know, in conjunction with any of the other designers that we use. And, you know, what's available out there in terms of template work basically is we're not able to, we wouldn't be able to hit the mark on the design if we were using templates. So basically everything has to be done from scratch essentially with every site, so that, you know, the design, the interaction with the user experience kind of all is tied to the singular concept.
And with your background being at AJRoss all those years, and you know, it's a marketing firm, how much is the marketing of what we do with the client important to when you program or do websites?
Right. Well, you know, like I said, every client is different, and if we have to look at the demographic of who's going to be using the website. For instance, if we know we're building a website for active adult living or something like that, a real estate website, we have to be very conscious of font size or button size, making sure that people know how to navigate. People who have been using the internet since it you know, really became as popular as it is. So, you know, we have to keep in mind all the different perspectives of the user, and that's a big part of my job is you know, taking the design and making sure it functions for the people for the demographic that we know is going to be using the site.
Great. If you have any questions for Matt Ross or myself, you can call us at 845-651-1110. Again, it's 845-651-1110. I have a text from Dan. I guess he's calling or texting from Philadelphia. His question, as a business owner, keeping costs down is crucial. The question even comes up for us internally, wouldn't it just be faster for us to use templates?
Right. So this goes back to what I was saying just then. And basically, you know, it is good to ask these questions from time to time. The technology of templates is, and you know, the technology of the internet is always, it's always moving. We hope it's always getting better. So, you know, maybe someday we will be able to just, you know, install a template on the site and it will basically work. But unfortunately, the landscape of the internet and all of the platforms out there that service template work, like Squarespace or Wix, they're never able to really hit the mark. And part of that is like what I was saying about, you know, coding for your demographic, but then also what happens is these templates were made so that the most amount of.
So what you're saying is, you know, if you have the money and you have the budget, have somebody who does websites, custom websites, who can program and can design it and do that and come, you know, and do it that way. I know we don't deal with templates. I mean,
right.
You know, we've lost a lot of money, but we just don't do it. It's
Yeah.
not, because when we do websites, it's part of our marketing tools, and it's clients that we deal with that we do websites. Question, I hear there's something new coming up with, I know you use WordPress mostly. Why do you like WordPress?
Well, WordPress is incredibly a dynamic platform. About 30% of the entire internet uses WordPress on their website. And using WordPress, we can kind of take a lot of these streamlined out-of-the-box utilities that come with these website builders, but still use our own custom designs and really get deep with, tailoring it to the client.
And how important is it to stay in touch with the changing programming? I know there's something coming up. What is it called?
Gutenberg.
Gutenberg. What is that all about?
So Gutenberg is basically going to be turning a lot of, it's going to be frustrating a lot of programmers like myself. Essentially, the editor where you type in, what you want your blog to be about or whatever, that whole structure is going to be changing by default, coming up with a new WordPress version. I know this is the case also for other platforms like Drupal. So the whole internet is basically getting a little shook about this Gutenberg update. So that's the big next thing that's on our plate coming up. Something that just occurred across the internet that we've been dealing with recently was the need for an SSL, which is basically a security badge for your site. And what Google has started to do is mark your website as not secure if you don't have an SSL set up. And this is something you can purchase through your hosting. We set them up for clients. And basically, if you go to a website, so if you go to AJRoss.com and you look right next to the web address, there's a little green bar that says secure right there. And sometimes it's a green lock, sometimes it's the word secure, but basically that just shows you, hey, you're using a secure website.
Okay, great. We'll be coming back shortly. I have 15 seconds, and then we'll go to a break. Again, if you have any questions, please call 845-651-1110. We have 15 seconds, so we'll be right back. This is WTBQ, Creative Marketing, and I'm Alan Ross. I'm with Matt Ross, and we'll be right back.
AJRoss Creative Media is the premier marketing, advertising agency, web design, and social media company in the Hudson Valley. AJRoss connects their clients with prospective customers by generating powerful marketing and advertising concepts. Meet with the AJRoss team and you'll walk away with a new and innovative approach that'll bring your company to the next level. Contact the AJRoss team and set up a free consultation and get started with the best. Visit AJRoss.com.
Hey, this is Joe Dans. Connect the dots in these challenging times with my creativity and technology for business and life show every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on WTBQ, AM 1110 and FM 93.5. Radio worth listening to.
WTBQ.
Hey, it's Alan Ross again, Creative Marketing. I'm here with Matt Ross, Senior Vice President of Digital at AJRoss Creative Media.
Yes, something I wanted to go back to real quick before moving on. Talking more about template work and why it's important to have a custom website is that a lot of times what happens with these templates is you get a lack of attention to detail. And what I mean by that is, pictures will resize incorrectly or menu items will disappear just for the sake of getting it done. These details get lost. And something that we talk a lot about is that perception is reality. If someone goes to your site and they see this website and it's, broken or in this kind of like uncanny valley of the internet. It feels like, oh, it's almost there. You could kind of see it. It kind of works, but it doesn't really hit the mark. People are going to they're going to question whether you are putting enough attention to your clients. If you're letting these kind of details slip, like what other problems might you be having with your business, or at least your communication to your audience? So.
I know I've been a pain in the butt with our website. I mean, geez, how many times have we changed? But why don't you talk a little bit about what we've been doing recently with our website, and why I'm saying our website, because what we do with our website, we do with our clients' websites. So I know we've been updating it a lot, and content and all that sort of stuff, and also how important, or how do you work with a search engine optimization company that we have? We have two. One is Right On Point, and we have another one in Albany. So how do you work with them to make sure that the site is optimized correctly, and how do you program that?
Sure. Well, new content is always super important. That's why keeping up a blog is really important, to show your audience that you're relevant, to put the idea out there that you are you're well versed in your form. But there are a lot of different techniques with SEO, which is why we talk to other companies who are professionals in that area. So basically, we handle the design and the coding, and what the SEO professionals do is they'll optimize the content on the website, the pictures, metadata. And what metadata is basically code that's hidden in the background that you don't see when you're visiting the site, but Google will pick up on this information, like your title tags, or each image should have an alternate piece of text, so that if someone is using a browser, or if someone has a disability where they can't see the website, it'll display that text. And all of these things kind of play into Google's rating of your site as being a quality site.
And one more technical question, then we'll loosen up a little bit. What's the deal with Internet Explorer?
It's been I'll say it's been a little bit of the bane of our existence for some time. It's an older browser. Somehow Microsoft is still supporting it, even though they've come out with a completely new browser called Microsoft Edge, which still hasn't gotten its footing in like the market share of browsers. Google Chrome is typically seen as
Safari?
Yeah, Safari is huge for Mac users, but Google Chrome takes about 60% of browsers being used across all the internet. 60% of people are using Chrome, which is why we, first and foremost, make sure that the site looks amazing in Chrome, and then kind of tweak it to make sure that it also works across all browsers. And the hardest one to make this happen for is Internet Explorer. It's
antiquated.
It's antiquated. I don't like to talk bad about other people's work, but it's an older browser, and you'll see if you open a website in Internet Explorer and then you open it up in Chrome side by side, there are probably going to be things that are off or a little weird in Internet Explorer. And this goes back to the whole perception is reality thing. If you want to see a website at, a company show themselves at their truest, Chrome is where it's at. If you want to see the internet as the rest of the world sees it, use Chrome. Safari is also great for Mac users. It always changes, but right now Chrome is at the top of the leaderboard.
Cool. Changing up a little bit. I know, you're your father's son, but I know you are very, very involved in the music business, playing and recording and producing. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you've been doing recently? Meanwhile, let me just say something. I was, and I'm, this is my past life, but I was I played with the best. I was considered one of the better players, and I gave this young man, or this man, a guitar when he was like 12 years old, and he blew me away in 2 years. So you were doing Mahavishnu and all that sort of stuff. So why don't you just tell, I know that's your main love, so why don't you talk a little bit about what you've been doing?
Sure. Well, I play in a bunch of bands. For a while, I was playing in too many bands, so I had to peel back a little bit. 10 bands is too much. But still playing a couple bands in the area, mostly around Ulster County where I live. We play, and in bars and venues all over the place, sometimes down in the city. But I also have a solo project that I've released a bunch of albums on, where I play essentially all the instruments and do all the writing and recording and all that.
Do you have a website that people can go to hear some of these tunes?
Sure, subpixelmusic.com. There's a link to a Bandcamp page there where you can view my albums and compilation contributions. The style is kind of all over the place. I feel like that's a good method.
Very eclectic, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good method for musicians to use. Get into as many genres as you can to kind of like widen your palette. So there's some electronic music in there, some acoustic music, some weird prog stuff. Kind of all.
This might be a strange question, but how does programming and the ins and outs of programming kind of have a similarity to when you are producing or doing an album or playing? Is there a similarity to your mind space on that? That's a good question, right?
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a parallel there, where, like I said, I did start out as a doing more of the graphic stuff and became the programmer. And so the parallel being graphic work, like the work that Carlos does, our creative director, he would be like the performer, the musician in this scenario, and the coder would be, say, the producer or the engineer who is, making sure all the levels are right, doing the mix, making sure the instruments are being recorded in a good zone so that the quality of the music that's being written by the musician or creative director follows through and gets portrayed accurately to the audience.
I just got a text from Jimmy from Ulster County, and one of the questions he wanted to ask you is, well, you have to explain what it is. How well do you know CSS?
CSS is huge. Basically, there are a couple of coding languages that, like the main coding languages that run most of the internet, which are PHP, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and ASP, which is still out there but lesser than PHP these days. CSS is basically, I'll say this: HTML and PHP are the frameworks, and CSS are what give it the look, the colors, the fonts, the size, the shape. They also decide, whether or not your site is responsive, which is crucial these days. Responsive site meaning that, whether you look at the site on a huge television screen or a computer monitor, or you look at it on your phone, a tablet, that it's basically the same experience. It's the same website that just resizes correctly for any viewing experience. So make sure that the font sizes, the buttons, all make sense for each size.
Question: how fresh? I know that you and Carlos have been going out to meetings and presenting and doing proposals. How frustrating is it when you go to a client, a potential client, and they say their website is about 10, 12 years old. It's totally, not anything. I mean, it looks terrible. And they say, I love my website, and, why do I need to change it? First of all, why they call, but why do I need to change it,
Yeah, well, I understand the attachment. You've been not only are you familiar with it, but you're working on it over all the years, so you have a sentimental attachment to it. But you do need that outside perspective of someone to say, hey, this is my first time seeing your website, and this is the feeling I'm getting from it. I'm not able to get the information that I'm looking for, or it just feels old, which makes me feel like maybe you don't care as much as you actually do.
Well, what I've been telling some clients is, when we do brochures or we do marketing or we do a website, I said, I don't care if you like it. It's not what you think about it. It's what your potential clients think about it. Well, I mean, we care, of course, what the client thinks, but, it's not about how you feel about it's the marketing tool that's going to have your phone ring.
Yeah. And we want the client to feel like they're proud of the work they did, because we always work very closely with the client. So, you want the customer to feel proud that they've worked closely with you and have produced a good website. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's all about, returning good leads, making sure that your web presence matches your brand. You want to establish yourself as a professional, as an expert, and if your website doesn't do that, then what are you doing?
If anyone has any questions or would like to talk to Matt, me, or Carlos, you can always call us at AJRoss at 845-783-5770. Again, 845-783-5770 with any of your questions. Or you'd like to come and talk to us about what we could do for your company or your website, where it doesn't cost to have your initial meeting. I do have a text from Alinda Ross. I guess you know who she is?
I've heard her.
Okay. She's asking, when are you going to make us grandparents? I'm sorry. You knew it was coming. Come on, Amanda. When are you, we're almost finished here. I just can't tell you how proud, and, it's a dream to be able to sit next to two human beings. Carlos, who's been with me 21 years, he's like my son, and Matthew, who is my son, to have these two qualified, wonderful people working for me that I come to, and they're getting more and more involved in the business end, and I'm just so proud of both of you, and man, I'm proud of you. It's just, it's so wonderful to know that when a client comes in and we have services that meet to be, you and Carlos take care of it in such a professional way.
I appreciate that.
Anyway, this is AJRoss from Creative Marketing. Join us next week. I think what we'll be doing, because it's before Labor Day, we'll have Matt and Carlos here, and we'll be discussing certain things. Again, if you need if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can also call us at 845-783-5770.
Your community radio station since 1969.
WTBQ.